last Sunday, we introduced our little 3-week series that we're doing called Digital Detox. How many of you are participating in our 40-day fast? Raise your hand, look around you. If they're not raising their hand, say, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, right? But last week we looked at the playbook of the enemy, and we looked at John chapter 10, verse 10 that says, the thief. Now I want to be clear about something. I think sometimes when we hear that word, the thief, maybe you're picturing a bandit breaking into your house with a mask on and trying to steal something. This is not a human fleshly criminal. This is the devil. This is speaking of Satan, your spiritual enemy that hates you. He is a thief, and Scripture tells us he comes in to steal, to kill, and to destroy. This is his playbook. But Jesus, the Bible tells us, comes that we might have and enjoy life and have it in abundance to the full until it overflows. I told you last week, Satan wants to steal your time and your attention. I told you last week he wants to kill you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And he wants to destroy a vital and flourishing life. But Jesus came that we might have and enjoy life. And I just want to declare to you, that's what this series is about. Having life. Yes, we are fasting 40 days. Yes, we are fasting things like social media. And we are eliminating some apps on our phones. And we are spending less time connected to digital technology. But I want you to hear me today. I want to make this fast, this digital detox is less about what we are eliminating, and it's more about what we are reclaiming. It's what we're gaining. It's what we're experiencing. It's where we're growing. Yes, we're in a series called Digital Detox. This series is 3 weeks. But as a church, we're taking 40 days. Jesus fasted in the wilderness, right, for 40 days. As a church, if Jesus did that, I think we can do it, right? Hey, I didn't ask you to fast food for 40 days. Some of you, that might have been easier, right? But we're fasting things like social media, and we're eliminating, or at the bare minimum, we're limiting things that are designed to distract us. You can take a look at my phone. I brought it with me this morning. You can take a look at my phone. It has literally become a dumb phone. I can make phone calls. I can make texts. I can listen to music. I have access to my maps. I can check the weather. And I can take notes. That's it. That's all we need. Malik and I were walking through Walmart the other day looking for something for him, and we saw in the electronics section phones, and they had flip phones. He goes, Dad, they still have flip phones? I said, yes, bud, we all need those, right? I've eliminated, as I talked about last week, I've eliminated all distraction apps on my phone. Google is not on my phone right now. Safari, not on my phone. I do not have access to my email right now on my phone. No social media apps, no news apps, no sports apps. Can I just tell you, during playoff season, that is difficult. No shopping apps. That's not a big deal for me, but for Tasha, that's killing her, right? Here's where I can check my email from my computer when I'm in my office. I have Google on my computer that I use for studying sermons. But the rest of it, I'm taking a break for 40 days. And what we're doing is we're taking time to investigate the impact that devices and technology have on our personal relationships, our spiritual relationships, and our mental health. One of our key verses for this series is Psalm 119, verse 37. I love this verse. I want to read it to you from 3 different translations today. The Living Bible says this: turn me away from wanting any other plan than yours. Revive my heart toward you. The Passion Translation says it this way: help me turn my eyes from illusions so that I can pursue only that which is true. Drench my soul with your life as I walk in your paths. And the Amplified Bible, I love how it says it. It says, turn my eyes away from vanity. All those worldly, meaningless things that distract. Let your priorities be mine and restore me with renewed energy in your ways. That's what this 40-day fast is about. It's not about the elimination of things. It's about the restoration of things. It's about the restoration of things that matter. Things like renewed energy and passion. Things like time and attention for our family, for the Lord. We've officially been on this fast for 5 days. 5 days. How many of you have had any withdrawals? Anybody had any, more hands went up quicker than I thought. Some of you are like, yes, both and all of it. I have pictured some of you this week sitting in the corner sucking your thumb. I know that they're doing that. I've heard some great stories though. I've had more people text me stuff this week than ever before. Like some of you, I can tell you're bored, right? I've had more people tell me, but I've had great stories. I've had some fun ones. I've laughed with some of you. I've heard some huge steps that some of you are taking as a family. And can I just tell you, I am proud of you. Huge steps. Friday night, Malik had a friend over. So we sat down with our family Monday night and talked through our fast and what it's going to look like. And probably like a lot of 10, 11-year-old kids, Malik is addicted to Fortnite. And we started asking our kids if they were addicted, and they were denying. And I said, one of the first signs of addiction is denial. And then Malik started blaming other people. And I said, and the second sign of addiction is blame. You have them. And then the third one is justification. And we did all that too. We justified it, we blamed, and we denied. But one of the things, so we've eliminated for 40 days Fortnite in our family. Malik said, I hate this fast. That was his first impression of it. But we said, you get 1 hour a day that you can play like Madden or NBA 2K. Those are the two games you can play, and you have 1 hour a day. And he is always pushing the envelope. Can I get 30 minutes more? No, that is what you have. So we had a friend come over and spend the night Friday night, and I reached out to his parents because I know that they're participating in this text. And I said, hey, we've allowed Malik to have an hour. Can he and your son play for an hour? And they said, yes. So they played their hour, and then the next thing I noticed, they are carrying out coloring pages. They colored on real paper with real crayons and real markers. I was like, hallelujah, what is happening around here? I will admit, though, and this is the reason I brought my phone up, is because I found myself multiple times just opening my phone and just staring blankly at it. Have any of you done that? It's like, and you have to break yourself out of a trance. There's nothing there to look at, Chad. Somebody told me this morning, I have found myself looking more frequently at the weather app. And it's like, yes. Scrolling through the weather. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. It is Missouri, but it's not changing that fast, right? It's very interesting. What was interesting to me is last night watching the Chiefs game, I found out that when I get nervous watching the Chiefs, one of two things generally happen. I start biting my fingernails, or I go to news apps and I read, and to distract me from how poor the Chiefs offense is playing in that moment, I can just read. And so last night I would just reach over and pick up my phone, and I would literally, as the Chiefs are on, have my phone on just like, there's nothing there, Chad, put it down. Like, it's interesting how much my phone has been a part of my life. My phone is there first thing of the morning. My phone, I found it there when I go meet a friend for lunch. My phone is there and it's sitting on the table. I go to dates with my wife. My phone is there. I have family time. We have dinner. My phone is not on the table at dinner, but it's 5 feet away from the table. I go to bed. My phone is there. And I find it interesting that I knew all of this before I went into this fast, but I considered it normal. I considered this normal behavior. I don't want to be normal anymore. I don't want to be normal anymore. And some of you are like, Pastor Chad, you've never been normal. I get it, right? But I want to reclaim some things that are precious to me. Good, intimate, quality time with the Lord that's not rushed. Good intimate time with my wife and my kids that's not rushed or distracted. Good time with my friends. I find myself frustrated when I sit with a friend and I have a phone in my hand. But I want to take just a moment of honesty with you guys and share a reflection with you. I want to rediscover me again. I realized in day 3 that I had lost sight of me. I didn't even know it. I'd lost sight of me, who I am, what I want, what I desire. And so one of the things I've been doing during this 40 days, and I encourage all of you to do this. If you haven't been doing it, I encourage you to start today. But I'm journaling every day. And I journal quite often, but I'm being real intentional with this 40-day fast. I'm journaling what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, what is happening in my heart, what emotions I'm having. I'm journaling. I stared at my phone for 37 seconds straight today. I'm journaling the journey because I want to see how I progress. I want to see the difference of day 3 to day 33. Here's an insert. I don't typically share things from my journal with people, but I thought you might find this helpful or interesting. I said it's day 3. Today I find myself a little bit more emotional. And maybe emotional is not the word, maybe more sensitive. I don't know. Do I find myself being a little clearer of thought? It's weird. I still find myself wanting to scroll through my phone to find something to look at or read, especially when I'm bored or if I find myself just sitting there. I don't know what to do with nothing to do. I don't know really how to just sit in silence and stillness and just be. I feel I have to be productive, or bare minimum, I have to do something with my time. That was the first thing I said in the morning. A few hours later, I wrote this. Multiple times today, my emotions have been stirred. I felt my emotions much more than usual. Literal tears have been falling down my face as I was spending a moment with the Lord. Tears when I heard a song from my childhood playing when I was in Mardell bookstore. The song was, I don't want to be a casual Christian. That song was playing, and I was like standing in Mardell going, literally, like I'm not lying. I was standing in the second row of books. I was standing there staring at the books. They're playing, I don't want to be a casual Christian. I'm standing there crying. I'm like, is anybody looking? Like, they think I lost somebody or something. And I said, am I more in touch with all of that in day 3? Who knows? Maybe I'm not as numb. We shall see. That was my journal entry. If you're not journaling, I encourage you to do it. Just write down things you're feeling throughout the day. I really do think you'll get something out of this. So next week, we're going to be talking about a digital rule of life, meaning you need to have a plan after the 40 days. This isn't just 40 days of torture, right? We want to have a plan. Destiny Church doesn't want to only help you during this 40 days. We want to help you succeed in life. That's our goal for this series. Let's reclaim the things that matter the most, all right? Let's pray. Jesus, I just ask in these next few moments for you to be in this room with us today. I ask you to direct this next conversation. Speak to our hearts today, Jesus. We love you. We thank you for all that you're going to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I have 2 friends that are going to help me today. Would you welcome Allan Brown and Laura Foster joining me on the stage today? All right. You guys ready for this? You don't know?
Ready.
I'm ready. So let me introduce these guys to you. Allan Brown is on our management team at church. That would be the equivalent of a board. If you've been a part of a church as a deacon board, Allan is on our management team. He is a many years friend. We've done a lot of life together. We've taken vacations together. We've cried together. But Allan is a principal at Price Elementary here in Republic, and he's passionate about this subject. In fact, after church last Sunday, he came to me. I was trying to figure it out. I think you guys have been in church here about 14, 15 years, maybe a little longer than that. And you said, I've never asked you to preach on anything, but the past 3 years I've wanted you to preach on this topic. And sitting beside him is Laura Foster. And I'm going to tell you what she does, but I had to write it down, all right? This is her title and what she does. Her title alone proves she's qualified to sit in this seat. I am not qualified nor worthy to be up here with her. But anyway, Laura's title is Mental Health Clinician and Victim Services and Advocacy Specialist at Missouri State University. That's her title.
It's a really long name tag.
She is provisionally licensed. She is a provisionally licensed professional counselor and a nationally certified counselor. So these two are well qualified. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible comes from Matthew 6:33. I would say a big majority of us know that scripture. It says, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. But I love how it says it, and what you're seeing is the Amplified translation. It says, first and most importantly, seek, aim at, strive after his kingdom and his righteousness and his way of doing and being right, the attitude and character of God, and all these things will be given to you also. I think this is a great verse to consider, especially when thinking about our digital devices and social media and the distractions they bring. So I have a question for both of you. Let's start this one with Laura. Laura, how do you see the constant use of digital devices and social media influencing our ability to keep God first in our lives?
So in my work with clients, this comes up really frequently, kind of on a really wide spectrum of concerns too. So work with clients that come in and they say, my sleep is really impacted. I'm not sleeping as well. Or they say, my focus isn't what it used to be. Their attention spans are shorter. So that's kind of one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is that I also work with people who have pornography addictions that are so severe, they can barely leave their rooms. I work with people who have stalkers that are using social media, the internet, to pinpoint their locations to stalk them, using social media to broadcast really scary things about the person they're stalking, or using online platforms to severely bully others, which contributes to all kinds of mental health concerns. So when we look at some of these self-inflicted impacts of technology, so not the people that are victims, this is kind of a separate thing, but when we're looking at really those self-inflicted technology impacts, I kind of imagine our struggles with sin like embers in a fire, right? So an ember, if we think of it as sin, if we're not continually bringing it under the submission of Christ, that can really fan into a flame. Wow. And technology impacts that quickly. So if we have this ember of envy, we see someone post something about a vacation and our finances are really tight, that's going to fan into a flame, right? We have an ember of anger and we see someone post a differing political view than us, that's going to fan into a flame really quickly. We have an ember of lust that's going to fan into a flame really quickly if we see an ad with a suggestive picture and we can't get it out of our brains. So when we think about how to make God first, that takes intentionality, like really intense intentionality. And for the most part, what I see is that technology is mindless, and it just completely comes in front of that intentionality that it takes to keep God first.
And Laura, that's what I discovered this week during just 5 days. And that's what I said on day 3 when I said I was feeling maybe not as numb. I think that's it, is we just, like our phones, all of it just almost makes us mindless, and we just kind of just walk through life. Yeah. Allan, same question. How do you see that digital devices, technology, social media impact our ability to keep God first in our lives? Hold that button down. Is it working?
Says it. Oh,
there you go.
There we go. Hello. Well, I see it's a distraction, and I think it distracts us in 3 ways. I had a great conversation with one of our many great teachers at Price Elementary, Bree Schaefer, and we were talking about this topic, and this is something she's passionate about as a new parent as well. And I was focusing on what we're doing when we're on social media and technology, and she brought up a great point. What are we not doing when we're on social media and technology? And we're not using our time wisely. I mean, one of our greatest resources and gifts we have is our time. And I know for me, there's days I don't dig into the Word. I don't spend time in prayer, but I'll find myself on YouTube or whatever it is. And so it becomes a distraction of time. The thing about technology, there's good things to technology, especially in communication. The amount of communication, the efficiency of communication, and resources we can share, that's awesome. We can use that through technology. Unfortunately, it's distracted us from becoming socially connected to other people. I can communicate to somebody, that's not the same as connecting to somebody.
Yeah.
And, we're supposed to be the hands and feet of the church, or of the kingdom. We're supposed to be building the kingdom. We have to be able to connect to people. We've got to be able to not only speak, but we got to see. And we can't do that when we're looking at our phone. We got to be able to not just send a text or message in whatever capacity. We got to go and look people in the eye and see where they're struggling and see where they're hurting. And that's how we connect to people. COVID, we learned so many lessons from COVID, but we've already dismissed. We know that people needed that personal interaction, and then that just went away really quickly, that mindset. And so I believe if we're really going to further the kingdom, we got to connect to people. And then last, I think how it impacts the church and leading people to Christ is, I've heard you reference this earlier this year, and I heard one of our assistant principals in our district use this term 4 or 5 years ago. We've become a generation of keyboard warriors. Mm-hmm. And that's not exempt from the church. I despise that Facebook page, Get to Know Republic. There'll be somebody that's just going off on a school principal. You're hearing one side, of course. The church is getting the same thing. And God has told us how we're supposed to address conflict. And it's not going to social media. And here's what happens.
Preach.
This is where hey, this is the principle. I can get fired up on this stuff. When we go air out our grievances on social media, all you look like you look like a complainer. That's all you are. That's all we're doing. We're just complaining and hoping somebody feels sorry for us and joins in. We're not creating change. We're just creating a generation of complainers. It's amazing, as a principal, I'll get people that email all these threatening. Ironically, they complain a lot about schools about bullying, but they're bullying through social media. We'll have people that will send all these threats in social media and email, but then when you sit down and talk to them in person, they love you. Your school's great. We appreciate everything you're doing. And then they go back to social media and just blast you. So I think, we got to be able to solve problems and have productive change. And we got to be able to solve problems and communicate and connect to people to be able to do that. Yeah. It's okay to agree to disagree, but I see social media as taking a big distraction from what our purpose is.
Yeah. Stay with you, Allan. What's your goal personally? I know you're passionate about this as an educator. What's your goal personally through this 40-day fast for you and your family?
There's some things I'm good at. There's some things I'm really not that good at. At work and at home. At work, I'm distracted by my phone. I'm not doing things that are not related to my work. But I'll just use this example. Just the end of last week, I had a teacher ask me for what's the temperature. Are we allowed to go outside for recess? So I go to look up the temperature. And for that one reason, and then 45 minutes later, 20 emails, 15 texts, all related to work, I had not responded to that teacher and lost complete purpose of what I was supposed to do. I am easily distracted by my phone and the tasks I get caught up in. And, at school, my job is to make sure we're furthering kids in their education and supporting teachers. And a big part of that is connecting with kids and seeing what's happening. And also just being there for our staff and checking in with them. How can I help them? And a lot of my time is spent emailing and responding to texts that are work-related. At home, where I struggle is my brain, by the time I get home, is going 100 different directions, and I feel like I'm just wired up, especially I could be physically exhausted. By the time I go to bed, my brain is all kinds of thoughts, and I've used social media, particularly YouTube, whatever videos there are that I enjoy watching. I use that as a way to calm down my brain, and I'm trying to be more reflective through this. That's not a healthy way to shut down my brain. And what am I not doing? How am I not connecting to my wife? How am I not connecting to Addison and Adam, our kids? What am I not doing? So that's something I'm really, even knowing this and being reflective on it throughout the week, I'm still struggling with. Yeah. And something I got to be really intentional, and I hope to get better with.
Laura, same question to you. What are you hoping to get out of this personally and as a family?
So really that word intentionality, Allan, that resonates with me too. Really just praying about intentionally using devices and what that looks like instead of it being out of my control or mindless. We're just a couple of days in and it's already brought about so many great conversations. Last week, my husband Mike and I have 2 kids, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. And by the end of service, one of them, I won't call them out, ran up to us and was like, I deleted everything on my phone. We were like, whoa, you need Canvas for school. But and then the other child texted us on our family text during service and said, I am not doing this. If you know my kids, I'll let you guess which one was which. But one of the first things we did was we sat down to dinner on Sunday night and decided to look at our phone usage data. So iPhones keep track of all of that. You can go into your settings and you can see the breakdown of app by app, how many minutes you're spending on each thing. So it's kind of hard to say, well, I use my phone for the Bible app if it's like 1 minute a day, right? That's not gonna fly. So that was really enlightening for us. And then it also keeps track of pickups. So what they're considering pickups is anytime your phone is lighting up, whether that's you tapping it, whether that's you receiving a notification, that's considered a pickup. We were shocked how high each of our numbers of pickups were.
Everybody right now is trying to find that on their phone.
Don't do it right now, please. Wait until you get home, but I do encourage you to do that. It's really enlightening. Yeah, so we talk a lot in our house about this concept of God's best, and kind of use that as a framework for a lot of things that we talk about with our kids. And I'm really hoping that this digital detox kind of highlights that God's best for us isn't to live lives that are distracted. Yeah. It's not for us to live lives that are only seeking comfort. And God's best for us isn't to lead lives that are controlled by anything other than Him.
That's good.
Hey, Chad,
Yeah.
There was a scripture, I don't know if they have that verse from Hebrews.
Yeah.
Can I just
Hebrews 8.
reference that real quick? Can you put
Pull
that
up Hebrews for him?
Yeah. It was Hebrews 12:11. When we think of discipline, discipline has many different definitions and can be used in different contexts. In regards to what we're talking about,
It's right
in Hebrews
there,
12.
Allan.
Okay. I got it written down here. I cannot see. I'm old. It says, no discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful. Yeah. I'm from the New Living Translation, I believe. But afterward, there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. And so when I look at that verse, how that spoke to me was, when you think of discipline, you think of like your routines, your habits, your practices to better yourself and others. And so, this is going to require discipline for our families. You referenced Malik, and for us as adults, it's going to be painful. Yeah. But this is what the Bible tells us to do. And so I just wanted to reference that scripture.
I bet my phone had a lot of pickups during the 3-hour Chiefs game yesterday.
Go back and check. It will tell you. We have like little, bets now of like who can have the lowest amount of pickups.
iPhones do that. I bet Androids don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Hey, Allan, this is a question for you from your perspective as an educator. You talked about what you're desiring to get out of this, but how has digital technology impacted our students? And I know you're passionate about this, but how has it impacted our students' ability to focus, retain information, and engage in learning?
Okay, I'm going to get fired up here.
We're going to get detention if we're not careful.
All right, so, a lot of this has to do with video gaming. and screen time, but particularly video gaming. And so there has been all kinds of.
Before you go, if you're a parent in the room, I want to encourage you, really lean in and listen and pay attention and don't. I know there's a tendency at times when we have a panel or something, we can just tune out because Pastor Chad's not preaching to me or whatever. I think the information you're going to get from these two today is some of the most important information that you could get from this. And so as a parent, listen, this isn't all just aimed at parents. So if you're like, well, I'm not a parent, no, engage, listen. But I think you're getting ready to hear some stuff that could really impact your families. And I'm passionate that you hear this. So I wanted to pause him before you say that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and first of all, I'm not an expert. This is my 19th year as a head principal, 25th year in education. I taught 6 years. I've seen a lot of families, kids, teachers do things well. I've seen a lot of families, kids, teachers not do it well. And so I can speak to those experiences, what's worked, what hasn't worked. So just, throwing that out there. Talking about the research on video gaming is quite extensive. You can just Google, you'll find information pretty quick. It's pretty prevalent, especially since 2004, 2005-ish. And the research behind it, it's interesting, kids that are addicted to video gaming and adults as well, the amount of dopamine that is released into the brain is equal of that. I'm not going to mention it, but if you guys have been a part of the church for a while and remember the Pop-Tart sermon, you guys can make that connection. But
you can talk straight here. We're going to talk straight.
Well, it's the amount of dopamine that's released is equal to or greater of that during sex. And so, and actually there's been brain images since brain imaging has become prevalent. I don't know the year, but 2000s, it's just been around for prior to that. But when people are addicted to video gaming, the brain scans, you can see how the brain fires and works through brain scans is exactly the same as a drug addict.
Wow.
So, and this is what research is showing, scientific research is showing the impact of video gaming, increased screen time is having on kids. And I guarantee you if you're a teacher in this, you're probably gonna be like, hey man, I see it every day. And so it's decreasing the ability to sustain attention and focus. It's decreasing motivation and effort. As schools, we try really, really hard to make learning fun and engaging. But you know what? Sometimes learning is hard, and it takes a mental effort, and it takes a physical effort. And our kids are more and more coming in, and they do not have that ability to sustain the attention it takes to actually learn. And we're seeing this every single day. Just the ability to listen and follow simple directions. I know we struggle with that at home, but it's just getting exacerbated at school. And gaming and technology is having a direct impact on this. And one of the things I'm really proud of at our district and at Price Elementary, academics are very, very important, but we also we want kids to learn social emotional learning skills and how to socially interact and behave. And we're seeing an extreme decrease in kids' ability to be social and socially interact and communicate and work through problems. It's becoming non-existent for our 5-year-olds coming into kindergarten. And yeah, I know they're 5. We know they're 5, but the general skills we would expect students to have is dropping significantly. And it's impacting, our discipline is out the roof. And we have so many, I don't want to convey a poor image of, we have a great school system. We have a lot of good kids and a lot of good families. But our overall social skills and behavior skills are decreasing every year. And we've seen it significantly in the last 4 years. I'll talk a little bit about that later. But in this, the values, as a culture, we value entertainment and gratification over hard work. And period, if you're gonna do something and improve, more times than not, it's gonna take some hard work and effort. And we're just seeing that decrease. And as a parent, I've done a lot of things wrong. I think when I look at Anita over here, thank God, God bless Anita. If you guys know my wife, she is a saint. But I think something we've really done right. My son Adam, you guys probably know Adam. He plays guitar when he's home from school. But his senior year, they awarded one boy, one girl in the senior class a character award. And he was the recipient of that character award. And there were many kids that were deserving of that reward. And as a parent, I was really, really proud. And I was just curious, why did he get nominated? Why did he get selected for that award? And so I remember having this conversation with some principals, front office staff, some teachers, and they all said the same thing. I was expecting he did some heroic deed. He fed many homeless people. He clothed, he saved dogs from a burning, but I don't know. That's kind of what I was expecting. And this is the common thing I heard from each of them. When he walks by us and we greet him, he greets us back. He looks us in the eye and he acknowledges our presence. If we talk to him, he speaks back to us. Sometimes he initiates conversation with us. And part of me was really, really proud of that. And then part of me, to be quite honest, I was partly disgusted. And I know we have many students that can do that skill, but we're having an increase starting at kindergarten. Habits, they start before kindergarten. You're setting life habits as a family from birth.
Come on.
Okay? And so how sad is it that our kids don't have the will or the skill to look somebody in the eye and say good morning? That doesn't take a lot of skill. It might be awkward. But I look at it as that's something we really try to expect from our students from when they come into our school building, is to look somebody in the eye and say good morning.
Wow.
And it's something we really work at, and we've seen great growth because we've been emphasizing that, but that's something that's a skill that's being lacking. And, my daughter Addison over here, she is an amazing child too. It was easy for Adam. He was more of an outgoing personality. Addie's a little more reserved. When she was younger, she was more shy. That's not her personality, just go up and start speaking to people. But I can tell you with confidence, if you go up to our daughter and you say something to her, she's going to acknowledge you. She's going to say thank you. She'll look you in the eye and she will talk to you. And those are just simple skills that not only do people need to be successful in their individual endeavors, but if we're going to be kingdom changers, we got to have people that can be socially, look people in the eye and have a conversation.
That's good, Allan. Good stuff. Isn't that it? That is crazy to me that the reason he won a character award was not because of some heroic thing he did, but his consistency. That was what I gained from that, his consistency of who he was. That's good. Laura, how has digital technology, and as I've done some research on this is one of the most startling things for me, but how has digital technology, video games, social media, the use of our phones, contributed to issues like anxiety, depression, loneliness, suicidal tendencies in people today, and how can we address this biblically?
So I'll preface this by saying these are my own personal views and not representative of Missouri State University. We'll get that out of the way. So if this is something that you're interested in, kind of the mental health impacts, I really encourage you to listen to or watch Dr. Andrew Huberman's podcast, where he interviews Dr. Jonathan Haidt, who's the author of a book that came out last summer called The Anxious Generation. So in it, Dr. Haidt talks about how we have really great data in the United States concerning lots of mental health issues, but particularly anxiety, depression, and self-harm. So from about 1990 until 2011, the rates for boys and girls for all three of those concerns, anxiety, depression, and self-harm, stayed pretty steady. Higher than we want it to be, but really steady. In fact, some years it actually got better. It decreased a little bit. Then in 2012, things changed. So for boys, the rates of anxiety and depression shot up about 50%. For girls, the rates of anxiety, depression, and self-harm, Dr. Haidt describes it as a hockey stick. Upwards of 150% increases for girls in anxiety, depression, and self-harm. So what changed?
Pause there. I think some parents, especially of kids, I think that needs to set.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a staggering number. I mean, just that right there, that is mind-blowing to me. And we as parents have got, this is, and I want to read, this is not a throw, this is one of the most important things, and I think this right here, the enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
And he's doing it. And we're sitting there letting it light up their faces.
Yeah.
and we're calling it a babysitter. Go in your room, play your game. Get on your phone, get on your iPad. You go to a restaurant, we see this everywhere. Laura, this is. I walked into Office Depot the other day, and a mom was with her 3-year-old kid. His face never left his phone. Yeah. Walked around the whole time. That's what we've done.
Yeah.
And it's killing us.
Yes.
So I think I had to pause on those numbers. Those are staggering. I didn't know those numbers.
Yeah. Well, when we look at what changed, so the iPhone came out in 2007, but by 2012, pretty much everybody has a smartphone now. So we've gone from flip phones, which were used primarily for what? Texting and phone calls. Yep. And even then we had to pay 10 cents a text, and you had to wait till after 9 p.m. to call people, right? Yeah. Yeah. So we were using it as needed, and then we were putting it away. Well, now that everybody has smartphones, we might still be communicating, which is different from connecting, like you pointed that out, but then it's staying out. It's not going away. And in 2012, just about everybody is on social media as well. So we can't just blame phones. It's not just phones. It's really this concept of social media coupled with we are never putting the phones away. So we have gone from just using it as needed to spending hours and hours of time consuming news and world events from all over the place, which, hello, that is overwhelming. We were not designed to know all of that information at once. We are being contacted and harassed by strangers, which, if you are single and you are on a dating app, oh my word, I cannot tell you the things that I literally actually can't tell you, but the things that my clients show me on these dating apps, vile. The things that particularly men are saying to women, pray for our single people. Pray for them. That's a whole nother thing. And now we are watching videos that are super short in time, which is impacting the reward circuits in our brains. It has rewired everything. So now we are worsening our attention spans. We're promoting sedentary lifestyles. We are lessening our face-to-face connections with people. And why? Really, when we think about biblically what we do about this, I want you to ask yourself, what are you seeking by utilizing technology and social media? Really break that down. What are you looking for? What are you seeking? So people want to know that they're not alone. That's what I think. We want to know that we're not alone. So Dawn Easley is a very dear friend of mine. We send each other memes and reels about being dance moms almost every day because it's ridiculous. But we want to know that we're in this together. We want to know that we're not alone, right? But that digital connection is nothing in the face of real, true community. And what better place to construct that true community than the church? Yeah. We have this incredible opportunity to actually be true community for people, and we are missing it. Yeah. We are completely missing it. So looking at Galatians 5:1, for freedom, Christ has set us free. Yeah. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit to a yoke of slavery. Uh-oh. Right? We are called to be a people who walk in freedom. Not in slavery. We are not to be ruled by earthly things. And when we are all living in this freedom, then we have the capacity to create that type of biblical community that is so life-changing. But we have to be willing to be inconvenienced. We have to be willing to be interrupted. And we have to be willing to sometimes be uncomfortable in order for that to happen.
Laura, I want to stick with you. Allan, I want to come back to you on this next question in a minute. But while you're here, because I think this will tie in. We talked about sexhortation and all of that's happening. I just think we need to deal with that right here. What's happening with digital? You talked about how the things that guys are saying to girls and this and that. So digital devices aren't just impacting young people. It's impacting all of us. If I polled this room and said who has a cell phone or access to social media, I'm guaranteeing you, if it's not 100%, we're at 98 to 99% of us in this room. How are we seeing technology impact, and I want to use that in that vile way, How are we seeing technology impact multiple generations in that vile way? What's happening that we need to be aware of? And I think some parents need to be aware of this, of what's happening to their kids behind their bedroom doors and all of that.
Yeah, so first of all, in my family, we joke that my 81-year-old stepfather is way more addicted to his phone than the teenager. So, like, I don't want to hear anybody say this is a Gen Z thing. No. Gen Z is amazing, and they are world changers. So this is something that impacts older generations as well. What I'm going to share with you next might be a little bit hard to hear, so I do want to prepare you for that. It might bring up some uncomfortable conversations on the car ride home, just to give you a little heads up about that. But I think it's important that we don't stick our heads in the sand and ignore things just because they're hard to talk about or it's kind of just tough. So my job at Missouri State, I work predominantly with victims of and perpetrators of interpersonal violence. So that's sexual assault, that's stalking, and that's domestic and dating violence. And as part of my job, I am a member of the Southwest Missouri Sexual Assault Response Team. So that's made up of prosecutors and nurses and advocates and all kinds of really amazing people. And at a recent meeting, just a couple of months ago, what got brought up is that in our area, so this is not happening elsewhere, this is right here, what we are seeing a rise in is sextortion. So if you're not aware, sextortion is basically when one person engages in a relationship with someone else online. They get to know everything about that person, friends, family, where they work, their habits. They're really devoting a lot of time to get to know that person. They convince them or potentially coerce them to send explicit pictures and videos. They probably send some back as well. It's going both ways. And then what happens is that that person threatens to release those explicit images and videos because they have all of your information now. So that feels very real. So what we're seeing in hospitals now is that the nurses are going in to do suicide assessments because people are being brought to the hospital because they're a threat to themselves. And when they dig in and do that assessment, they're finding out that they came in because they've been sextorted and they want to end their life. They feel there's no way out of that. So I want you to be aware that this is absolutely something that does impact teenagers and young adults, for sure, that happens. And the data, which actually, it's such a newer issue, there's very little data on this. But what the data does tell us that with teenagers and young adults, it's typically with a previous intimate partner. It's someone that they know, right? Someone who maybe has been to your house before, okay? I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. A family friend. A family member, okay? But the real rise in our area isn't for that happening to teens and young adults, it's happening to older men.
Wow.
Older men are being targeted as victims of sextortion, okay? So don't think that, oh, that could never happen to me. That's not gonna happen to my kid. I heard a quote one time that said, giving a kid a smartphone is like handing them a snake and then getting mad that they got bit. None of us are immune to snake bites. None of us are so far above being bit.
So good.
And when we operate as a church, when we operate as Christ's followers who are safe people, and when we can be a safe place that someone can come to us and not be shamed for getting bit, when we link up with them arm in arm and say, you are not alone in this and we will get through this together, that is when real change happens.
So good. Man. That like does something to your heart.
Yeah.
You know, the apple. What is the picture of? An apple with a what out of it?
With a bite out of it.
Like that just staggering to me. Allan, I think it's great this question here followed up with that is as parents, like this idea of authority figures. Another one of our management team members, Jason Finley, and I were talking the other day, and he said, God made me and Nikki, our kids' parents. He said, we're not their friends. He said, when our kids turn 21, we can become better friends. But until then, it's my responsibility to parent them. Allan, we're watching a generation of parents. What we're using really is digital stuff to parent our children, and then we're getting mad at them because they got bit. Allan, how can we do a better job leading our kids, leading our families? I know this is something you're passionate about. You can stand up.
All right.
Is everybody okay? Is this all right? I know,
All right.
and I know we're taking a little time, but this is so important, and I just feel like the Lord is maybe revealing some things to some of us or exposing some things. And some of your kids, and you might be sitting by somebody that's thinking, oh my goodness, I'm getting ready to be revealed. But we want to help. This isn't about being exposed and shaming. This is about, we want to help. We want to help.
Okay, let me start off. My disclaimer, anything I'm about to tell you is not representative of Destiny Church or Republic School District. This is Allan Brown speaking. I've been really nervous since Chad asked me to talk about this. I've been really wrestling with this because this is a message I think people have needed to hear for a long time. I see it as a principal. I see it as a community member. I see it as a member of the church. And I think what I'm getting ready to say is I've been really nervous. And, talking to my wife, she said, no, Allan, you can't call kids and you can't call parents dumb. It's like, okay, I won't, I promise. But I just want to tell you where my heart is at. Obviously, I have a passion for kids. And these last 3-4 years, I have a passion for families because I've seen the decline in our families. And I just want to preface this with, if we want to have a strong church, if we want to have a strong schools,
Come on.
yeah, we need great leadership. We need good pastors. We need good principals. We need good teachers. We need good staff members. We have to have strong families.
Come on.
It's not going to happen if we don't have strong families. And I'm just telling you, all these things we're trying to teach kids at school, especially when we talk about social skills and behavior, we should be reinforcing. We shouldn't be the ones laying down the foundation for that. That should be happening at home. That's your responsibility. That's my responsibility as a parent. And we're missing the boat. We're missing the boat greatly. I remember a few years ago, we had a 9-year-old student, female student, and she was involved in some online gaming. I don't remember the game, but it led to some type of open chat room. And what happened was there's a man in his upper 20s on the East Coast who was grooming her through this online gaming platform. And it got to the point where somehow another family caught wind of it and shared with me and showed me the screenshots of what was happening and the communication that was happening between this man and this girl. They had made a plan to run away together. The guy made a plan to come get this 9-year-old girl and go away together. We got the police involved, and I remember sitting in my office at the table with this parent, and I remember the police officer and myself saying specifically, she goes, what do I do? I think at this parent's heart, she loved her child. She said, what do I do? And we said very directly, take the phone away, take this game away. And this was the response we got. But she worked so hard to build up and get to this level of whatever the game is and build up all these friends through this network. I don't think I can. Like, how crazy is that? I think I said that to her. I was like, you're crazy. What are you doing? And come to find out, that parent never did take it away. Out of school suspensions at a kindergarten through 5th grade building when I started my career, those hardly ever happened. I would say 6 years ago, we would average maybe 10 to 15 incidents that required out of school suspension. You know, our policies at the district level are very much more tolerant and patient, and should be, with our younger kids. We've seen last year, I think we were somewhere between 50 and 60 out of school suspensions, and we're seeing that trend again. And again, we have so many good kids and so many good families, but this is an increase of what's happening. I can tell you the 3 attributes of kids that were, and I would say of those 50 suspensions, that's probably 15 kids that are getting those suspensions. Here's the 3 common attributes in all of them. 1, I always try to learn what their interests are. Their number 1 habit and what they do when they go home, take a wild guess, video games.
Yeah.
The only exception was TikTok and YouTube. They spend their whole day at home in those platforms. Number 2, and this could be a whole other sermon, there's an absent father. Physically, figuratively, there's no father there. And then number 3, in every single 100% of these situations, there is no authority figure at home. Because I know there's single parents here, single moms. You're an authority figure.
Come on.
You are an authority figure. Now, those are some extreme examples. And I will say this, when we're working with families on these suspensions, here's the 3 most common things I hear as a principal, and I get so frustrated. And I'm getting old and crusty is what people tell me. So I just shoot people, tell them what I think. But this is the top 3 comments I hear from parents. 1, they never do this at home. I was like, yeah, just talk to your kid. All they do is play video games all day. What do you expect? Number 2, well, and this is the one that really gets me. If you send them home, they're just going to work harder next time they come to school to get kicked out. It's a vacation for them. What? I can tell you, Charles Emerson Brown, my father, if I had to guess, probably Donnie Blansit, the things you would never hear from those parents' mouths if I got kicked out of school is, oh, it'll be a vacation when they get home.
Oh, it would not have been a vacation.
You know, I'm 47, it's year 25 for me. I just tell parents, well, that's your problem. You're the authority figure. I'm an authority figure for my parents, or for my children, I'm an authority figure. Whether they're in Sunday school 100 yards away, whether they're in school miles away, I'm still an authority figure for those kids.
Yeah.
And we have lost that's a negative word in our culture, authority. To submit, compliance, those are negative things. Authority is a negative thing. You know, when Chad preached this last week, I remember I was over there and sitting next to Addie, and I was getting fired up. I was like, yeah, preach it, Chad. Then he said that, he came to that part where he was talking about, hey, I know this is going to be challenging, especially for your kids. Blame me, put it on me. And I want to stand up and say, no, Chad. I was grumbling. No, I've never done that in church. I'm crusty. No, they don't need to put that on you. You're the parent.
Come on.
You are the parent. I know, hey, kids, you probably don't want to hear this. Chances are in a room this size, there's going to be some of you plotting and some of you thinking, man, this guy's a jerk. Kids, you're probably not liking me right now. But here's the examples I gave you for those out of school suspensions that gave me, that's the more extremes, some of the more extreme examples that are becoming more prevalent. But here's what we're seeing in this concept of gentle parenting. Let me back up.
Somebody's passionate.
Can you put up Psalm 127:3? Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. I'll read that again. Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward for him. They deserve our time. Yeah. They deserve our energy. They deserve our encouragement. When it's convenient, when it's not convenient, we parent on convenience. I do all the time. They deserve it. They deserve our discipline. They deserve it. This concept of gentle parenting, it says your responsibility as a parent is to be their friend. Your responsibility is to make them happy. Let them make the choices. It's their life. They got to make choices. They're 5. And 17-year-olds, you're nothing but a 5-year-old in a bigger body. It is a lie. It is a lie. It's not true. First of all, it's not true. Gentle parenting doesn't work unless you have a kid that is perfect and loves to please everyone and make the right decision regardless of the context and what's happening. Those doesn't happen. We're sinful by nature. It doesn't happen. And it's not biblical. It is not biblical. If you could put up Proverbs 22 and Proverbs 23.
Yeah.
Don't fail to discipline your children. The rod of punishment won't kill them. Physical discipline may well save them from death. I love being my kid. I love hanging out with my kids. I think they're pretty cool most of the time. I like hanging out with them. I like knowing what their interests are. I want them to know I care for them. I want them to love them. But at the end of the day, I'm their dad. And it's my responsibility to teach them and have values and teach them, to model those values, to be vulnerable when I mess up and let them know I was wrong and apologize for that, and encourage them towards those values and those skill sets we want them to have, and then discipline when they don't do it. That's my responsibility. That's our responsibility. It's hard, but it's what the Bible tells us to do. How are we going to change our world if we can't change our homes? If we can't be authority at home, how are we going to make this church better? How are we going to make our schools better? Why do we expect kids to respect the teacher, respect the principal, respect whoever, when they don't even respect you? We got to do better. We got to do better. And then the last thing I would close with, if you could share that verse from Hebrews. I talked about discipline being in. Sorry, thanks for letting me stand up. Sorry.
No, don't apologize to me.
I mentioned discipline has different contexts, different definitions. Let's look at it this way from a discipline, consequential, giving your child discipline and consequences. Look at a different context here. No discipline is enjoyable while it's happening. It's painful. If you're doing discipline the right way, it should be done with love. I'm not ever condoning physical, verbal abuse.
Come on.
It's done with love. But if they're enjoying it, it's not very good discipline. Sometimes I look back at my childhood, even in adulthood, and there was times I wanted to do the right thing because it was the right thing to do. I wanted to make the good choice. I didn't want to make a bad choice or behave inappropriately because I knew it was the right thing to do. Sometimes, I didn't make the bad choice more often than not because I knew my dad was going to bust my rear. There's times I didn't want to let him down and I didn't want to be an embarrassment to our family, but there's often times I didn't do the right things. I didn't want to be in trouble and face the consequences of that choice. Yeah. Consequences, it's hard to be a parent. It's hard to discipline. It's so hard. But guys, our kids need it. That's how we learn, through mistakes. That's how we learn. So, okay, I'll be quiet.
Good stuff. Has anybody learned something today, taken something away? We have other questions. I'm going to move through those. Laura, I want you to close us out with just some thoughts from your heart to us as the body of Christ, and how we can wrap all this up and how we can add biblical values. Because like we talk about addiction and all this stuff, and we're addicted. The real issue is why. So what can we add? Some biblical values, some framework, some principles to kind of like steer us into a new season.
Yeah, that's so good. Really, that why is so important, because what we see with addiction is that sometimes a person who struggles with addiction or even with just problematic behavior, sometimes when you solve one concern, then you move to another. If we're not actually handling the why, if we're not going back and really unrooting that sin that has wound itself so deep in our hearts. So when I think about how do we incorporate biblical values into how we're using technology, I think we need to remember why we were created and how we were designed. We were created to worship, and we were created to be creative, and we were created to explore and to live in community and to love one another, all for the glory of God. I mean, even as I talk about that, I'm smiling, right? So when I think about watching a 30-second video of a stranger on a loop for 3 hours in comparison with all of that, I mean, that's almost laughable. There is no comparison.
Yeah.
So I think to wrap it up, I want us all to think about how might we engage differently with technology if the next time we picked up our phones or our iPads or whatever, we asked ourselves, is this the abundant life I have been promised?
Wow. Good thought. Say that again.
Asking ourselves when we are engaging with technology, is this the abundant life I have been promised?
So I won't go into all this. I sent you guys a video. My daughter Mariah sent me a video of it was a podcast, and it was a girl that hosts this, and she brought in this family doctor. And one of the things he said, and we've talked about this, is he along with the psychologist that I referred to last week, Jean Twenge, their stance now has become no children under the age of 18 have social media.
Which has changed. They used to say 8th grade. Yeah. So this is a change, so be aware of that too.
They think no children under the age of 18 should have social media. They say the algorithms that are designed to addict are toxic and destroying us. This doctor that Allan and I watched the video, one of the things he said, he's now at the place where he thinks that no person in an English-speaking country should even have access to real technology till after 18 because of what it's doing to us. I am not on news. I don't know. Pastor Brandon and I, we were joking, what am I going to do? How am I going to know if Trump said this, or how am I going to know if this person did? I have no clue. I literally feel like Tasha Blansit right now. I have, my wife doesn't watch the news, so I tell her, she's like, no, I had no idea, So this is what it feels like to be my wife. I have no idea what's happening in our world. But I did hear the other day that TikTok, unless it's purchased by midnight tonight, it goes away. Was it last night's gone? So I'm behind, all right. But this doctor said TikTok is the worst thing. And Laura, I didn't even know, this was a different doctor. He talked about how, and moms and dads, I want you to hear me, especially teenage girls. I didn't know the statistics you had and all that, and how that hockey stick, they said the same thing. It is worse for girls than boys. And they said it is destroying the insides of our brains. They said what TikTok was doing is they said you had 3 levels of social media. Facebook was friend-to-friend interaction. You connected with your friend from first grade, and it's changed some and adapted. Instagram was connecting with friends, but also being influenced by popular people. TikTok came in to rewire our brains. And they said the new approach of technology is to rewire your brains. And one of the things they said about TikTok is they said kids were coming, especially girls, and saying, I didn't realize I was transgender until I watched that video. A 30-second video shaped my identity. I didn't realize I was this until I watched these videos. Because they said these videos, they watch them, and Allan, you talked about YouTube. These videos, the algorithms are designed that if you watch one and you spend a lot of time on it, they realize, something went off in his brain. He likes this. And they start showing you more and more and more, and they progressively try to take you worse and worse and worse. They're trying to shape our identity. So it is our responsibility as parents, as educators, as counselors, as friends, as the community of God, to do something about this. And I am passionate about this. And we took a long time to do this. But I do not apologize today for the time because this was essential. We want to shape you as a family. And so thank you. Brandon, thanks for coming. We won't end with a song. Would you give it up for Laura and Allan? Would you give it up for them? From both of you guys. Yeah. Really.
You did awesome.
From the bottom of my heart as your pastor, thank you both for being vulnerable and passionate. And you mentioned a book, and I know you have books. If you guys, I know these two, if you have any questions or anything, come up and talk to them. They will help you. They will resource you. But let's resource each other. And man, let's go from this place. Give on your way out. Pete and Janine are going to be at the Next Steps table. If you want to talk to them about table groups and community, stop by there. We have prayer this Thursday night, 6:30 here at the church. Don't forget that. You'll be hearing from us on Vision Nights. Grab one of your bracelets. Hey, don't leave without putting one of these tight bracelets on your arm that say imagine. And every time your arm is being restricted, you can imagine expansion. We love y'all. Have a great, great week. We'll see you.